there.
All right, thanks, Rebecca.
Awesome. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, don't worry. I just wanted to make sure I had the right room because I have been known to get it wrong.
Yes. I know, it's okay. Yeah, I couldn't see people in the waiting room for some reason.
Okay.
But I think we're good to go.
Let's see. Hopefully some people show up. Hi, Matson.
Hi, Regina. How are you doing
How are
today?
you doing? You know what? If it's just you, you're going to be really lucky. You're going to get a free counseling session today. Let's see if anyone else shows
People join.
not to put you on the spot or to say that you need a counseling session, but I just think everybody does.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it won't be a chance. It will just be, I always like to see people, and yeah.
Good, good, good. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. You know, this is always my challenge to people. Let's see. Where do I have this? Okay, I have all the things except college. That's probably this one. Matson, where do you go to school?
Yeah, so I go at Huron at Western University in London, Ontario.
Okay, wonderful. And are you there right now or are you in Zimbabwe right now?
No, I'm there already. Like, I'm in London.
Wonderful. And what year are you in school?
So right now I'm going into my second year. So
Okay.
last year was a mess, like being online.
Yes,
but
a freshman. Oh my gosh, freshman year during COVID is really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like that. But we're so excited because we'll be going back to in person this fall. So yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Are they saying in person only for people who are vaccinated?
No, like they're saying like to live on campus, you should be vaccinated.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems what most universities are doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
And what are you studying, Matson?
So I'm doing honor specialization in political science and a minor in French.
All right, look at you. So that is a very specific major.
A very specific major?
Yeah, political science and French. I mean, that sounds pretty specific. Do you have a hope of what you want to do after you're done with your studies?
Yeah, I really know what to, like it's sometimes you don't know what you want to do, but you have a passion about what you want to achieve. So myself, I know like I want to help the world to address inequalities. I have a passion about that, conflicts, wars, systemic racism, all these things happening, and I want to go into advocacy and work, and that's my passion. But I don't know where to work.
Okay, so you don't know what you want to do for work, but you know what similar things to what you want to do.
Yeah, I know where my passion is.
Yes.
But I don't know an organization where I can go. So yeah.
Well, that's a lot. You know a lot already. For just having finished your freshman year in the middle of COVID, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's nice of you. Thank you so much for that.
Most people do not know that much after just 1 year of school. So good for you. Wow. All right, and we have some more people joining us. Matson, I'm going to ask you a question, even though I'm still putting you on the spot. How did you find remote learning during your freshman year? Did you enjoy it? Was it a struggle?
I can say it was a great opportunity for me to learn about myself.
Okay.
As well as, trying to see, because I learned a lot of stuff during like being remote and but challenges are always there. Sometimes we face challenges on, with the connectivity. Sometimes maybe your laptop may crash like during exam. all those were the challenges, you know. But great things that like I just had to understand myself, as well as trying to use this opportunity with, you know, didn't have to walk in person, because at some point I took some courses in person, and I had to prepare myself, like to go to campus, like about an hour, and then taking a course an hour, and then after the course an hour back. So 3 hours just for a course. But during online, that's a lot. So during online classes, I could just spend an hour in one class. So that one, I saw it was an advantage to me, like to be remote, but as well as, you know, you don't have the in-person, you know, the people surrounding you, and you don't have much of networks around you, and that's really bad.
Yes, there are advantages and disadvantages for sure. So for each of you, it's totally fine to keep your video shut down if you prefer that. I'm totally happy for you to do that to save your data. Tapiwa, do you want to do an introduction, or do you just want us to jump right in? We may just jump right in. I would love for each of you, if you want to unmute, or if in the chat, if you want to tell me what university that you are at. If you're already at university, I would love to just hear where you're studying. And Tapiwa, are you back? Is there anything that you want to say before we get started?
Yes, I can get us started. Sorry, my network dropped out for a second there.
No, that's fine. I know you're
Thank you all so much for joining us. So this... Yes, this webinar is being co-hosted by Education Matters and Regina Chari. Regina has graciously offered her time to help us give you some information on how to manage your mental health while you're in college. And we know for a lot of you, you've either started university online or are continuing to do university online. And so Regina will really take her time to kind of share information with you that'll be really valuable, and we hope you learn a lot. Throughout the meeting, feel free to send a message to the Education Matters chat or to Regina directly if you have any questions you don't feel comfortable asking publicly. But let us know if you have any questions, and the recording will be shared after the meeting in case anyone is unable to on for the whole meeting. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'll pass it on to Regina.
All right, thank you so much, Tapiwa. Ooh, Nyasha, you just graduated. From where? I would love to hear from where. You know what, you guys, this is a really small group. I'm going to try to go through some of the content. I put together some slides for you. Oh, all right. I graduated from Michigan State with my bachelor's degree, so we probably wouldn't have been that great of friends, but I will cheer you on anyway at UPenn. Nyasha, what degree did you just graduate with? Okay, Rising Junior at Smith College. All right, this is so exciting. I love hearing where you all are. So I do have Yale, Kimberly, way to go. And you're starting your master's, electrical engineering. You guys are so smart. I promise you, I am always so impressed by these Zimbabweans jumping on these webinars. It just gives me so much hope for the future. So I have put together some information for us on a little slideshow, because sometimes people like slideshows for webinars, but this is a really small, intimate group. So I think we may do something a little bit different. I would love for you guys to jump in and talk and ask questions and share your experiences if you feel comfortable doing that, but please do not think that you have to. Everyone's always in control of how much they share. So I'm going to share with you some information on my slides, but I think before I do that, I'm going to share with you guys a story. I'm going to share a little bit of my own personal story, which I don't always do in situations like this. So I have a master's degree in, way to go, Tino. I have a master's degree in social work. I graduated from high school in 1997. So for those of you who are engineers and who are very good at math, you are going to know how old I am. So I graduated from high school in 1997, and I immediately from high school started my bachelor's degree at Michigan State University. And when I graduated from high school, I had been a super high achiever through 10th grade in America. So, you know, you graduate in 12th grade. So I had been a super high achiever through 10th grade, despite some mental health challenges, some trauma, and an alcohol and drug addiction. And in 10th grade, I took my SAT and my ACTs early, scored very high on them, was early admitted into university and granted a scholarship, and I stopped worrying about high school. And I just lived in my struggles at that point, and thought that I was having a really good time. And so I graduated from high school barely. I had already been admitted to Michigan State and had already earned a partial scholarship. So even though I didn't complete high school well, I was still able to be admitted into Michigan State on academic probation because my grades had declined so much. And I knew when I was admitted into university and when I moved into the dorms my freshman year that I was expected to maintain a specific GPA in order to stay enrolled in school. And I knew that there was this pressure on me. And my grandpa who raised me passed away my freshman year of university, and there was just a lot of trauma triggers for me. And really that first year of university, all I focused on was having a good time. And that for me involved drugs, it involved alcohol, a lot of unhealthy behavior, and very little support for my mental health. I had been in counseling, but I stopped going to see my counselor, and I just lived life. And I did not go to class. Somehow one of my courses had such a big curve that even though I had never attended and never turned in an assignment, I got a passing grade. That's how big the curve was. And then I was expelled from university. And I was expelled for poor performance on academic probation, and I was expelled for drug and alcohol violations. And at that point, my world came crashing down because I had always been a high achiever. I had always gotten really good grades at school. But all the unresolved trauma and all of my unhealthy coping skills really caught up with me. And I will tell you this, the reason that I chose Michigan State, this may make some of you laugh, although you are much more diligent students than I am, so it will probably just make you sad. The reason that I chose Michigan State University is because in 1996, when I was applying to university, before I graduated from high school, Michigan State was ranked as the #1 party school by Playboy magazine. I don't even know if you know what Playboy magazine is because I don't even think it exists anymore. But they ranked it as the #1 party school in the country. It was 2 hours from where I grew up, so I thought it was the right place for me. And I ended up expelled for partying too much at the #1 party school in the nation of America. And so my world crashed down around me, and I really had to focus on my mental health. And things got worse before they got better. And I ended up in a locked psychiatric ward after a suicide attempt. And then I ended up leaving the hospital and going to a rehab for drugs and alcohol. And when I came out of treatment and I was really trying to work on my mental health, I had to earn my way back into school, and Michigan State had said that I was expelled and that I would never be allowed to come back. But I was certain that I wanted to finish what I started. So I took a few classes at community college, and life happened and some hard things continued to happen, but I maintained my mental health. I focused on my drug and alcohol recovery, and I was admitted back into Michigan State. I graduated from that school with honors. And then I went to Washington University in St. Louis for my master's in social work. And I have spent the past 22 years focusing on helping children and adolescents who've experienced trauma in their childhood to resolve their hard histories and to focus on their mental health so that they can experience success. Because I definitely have seen over the 42 years that I've been alive, the hurdles that were in my history, that if they had been resolved before I entered into university, I would have been in a better position to handle the challenges. for you guys, you have experienced incredibly unique challenges in your college experience, whether you are a freshman or whether you are, in postgraduate studies, you are living through a pandemic that has flipped education upside down for people all the way. My daughter was in grade 0 last year, all the way from grade 0 through to PhD studies. Education and academics were flipped upside down. And when we have massive change like that in our life, it impacts our mental health. We are hearing over and over and over the reports that are coming out in the past year about how mental health has been impacted by this pandemic. We know that anxiety rates are rising. We know depression rates are rising. We know things that are related to unhealthy coping skills like alcohol, drug use, self-harm, eating disorders. We know that all of those things are on the rise. And those are unhealthy coping skills and mental health struggles that are generally seen on college campuses anyway. So I don't have any data about this yet. I'm pretty sure reports are going to be coming out in the next couple of months about how the mental health specifically on college campuses are being impacted. We know in general about mental health right now. So I am so glad that you logged on. If you are joining us now and you haven't yet, I would love to hear what university you're studying at in the chat, or if you want to unmute and tell us. I would just love to be able to celebrate you and the hard work that you are putting in for your academic success. So I will tell you this, my history was that my mental health interfered with my academics, and then my mental health made a massive impact on my academics for the positive. So throughout my undergrad career and my master's program, the experiences that I had with burnout and with mental health struggles prepared me to realize that things were going to be hard, that there were going to be hard periods in school, and that hard didn't mean that I was doing something wrong, and that I could be prepared for those hard moments. And that if I was taking care of my mental health, that my mental health didn't have to interfere with my success. And that's really what I want to talk to you guys about today. I know that school is hard. I know that you have lived through stressful times, but I also know that no matter how much stress we live through, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are well prepared for stress to come. So what is stress? Stress is defined as any type of change. I'm not sure I understand. Oh, Siri's talking to me. Any type of change that causes physical, emotional, or psychological strain. Stress is also your body's reaction to a challenge or demand. So we all have stress in our life every single day. Every day there are changes that take place that can cause distress. We also, when our body is challenged or we give a new demand for our body, we react in stress. So let me give an example of a way that we may be stressed. Thursdays at 4 o'clock, I generally do not do a webinar, right? I have a normal routine with my structure of my schedule, and Thursdays at 4 o'clock, a webinar is not one of those. And I had an alarm set at 3:45 so that I knew that I had to hop on my computer, and I had someone who was here because they were late for a session and we ran late. And then I was like, you know what, my alarm's going off, I gotta go. And I was racing to my computer to log in. Now, even though this is a really good thing, I love joining you. I love sharing stories with you and trying to help you learn about your mental health and how it can help you succeed. There was still a change in my schedule, and that caused stress in my body, right? It wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It was a positive thing, but it still caused stress. So my body responded to that stress. And let's look at what that looks like. Can you guys see my screen okay? Sharing screen is not my, I'm not technologically savvy. I'm a social worker. So we have here this graph that shows our performance right here, which is generally what people are interested in. So you have on the left-hand side of the graph, you have your performance, and then we have our arousal stress at the bottom. And as you see in this graph, as our stress goes up, our performance can also go up. And we have this comfort zone that we can live in here where we are experiencing stress and our performance level is increasing. So for some of us, we might be athletes and we might put our body under stress in order to train. My husband is a professional cricketer and he puts his body under stress all the time in order to get better, right? He wants to throw the ball faster, he wants to run faster. So he puts his body under stress and his body's able to rise to the occasion and increase his performance level. This is good stress, right? Just like we all have good stress. When you're studying for an exam and you're in those last few minutes before you take the exam, your body is under stress. However, that stress allows you to focus better than you were when you were just studying. When you're here and you're taking the exam, you can be more focused, you can be more hypervigilant, you can recall things faster. Your body is doing things to pay attention less to your bodily functions and more to your brain function in order to do well on that exam. So we want to live here in our good stress and our increased performance. What happens for most of us is that we don't manage our stress well with healthy coping skills. So we end up crossing this line into fatigue. And once we cross this line into fatigue, we go into distress with our body and our performance starts to decline. And this is what we don't want in university. We don't want to pass the point of fatigue and get into exhaustion. You'll hear people call this burnout. We don't want our immune system to suffer or to have a breakdown because of our stress. And that's generally where people start to identify stress, is right here. But we are experiencing stress every day, all day. It's just if we are able to release that stress with our healthy coping skills, then it's not going to take us to a place of fatigue and breakdown. So how do we release our stress with healthy coping skills, and how do we maintain our mental health? I'm going to give you 10 things that you can do in order to make sure that your mental health is a solid foundation. And when we're talking about mental health, we are not talking about mental illness, right? Mental illness would be a diagnosis, right? That maybe you would have a clinical diagnosis of anxiety or depression or bipolar, right? Those are mental illnesses, just like diabetes is a physical illness. We are not talking about mental illness here. We're talking about every human being has a level of physical health. And if you maintain your physical health, then you stay healthy. And every human being has a level of mental health. And if you do the things that you need to maintain your mental health, then you're going to be able to adapt to the stressors in your life. So there are things that we do to stay physically healthy. We eat nutritious food, we exercise, we sleep, we drink water. There are certain things that we do for our mental health. And you're going to be surprised how many of these also overlap with your physical health. So the 10 things you need to do to maintain your mental health are this. You have to sleep right. This is the hardest thing for college students, I think. It's definitely one of the hardest. You have to sleep the right amount of hours at the right time of night. All right. You should not be studying in the middle of the night and sleeping all day, right? Human beings are not naturally nocturnal. So if you start flipping your sleep and your wake time, it's going to impact your brain chemistry. Sleep is one of the most important things for balanced brain chemistry. I would say sleep and water are the most important. So you want to sleep the right number of hours at the right time of day. Now, if you have to pull an all-nighter in order to get a project done or to study for an exam, that's fine. That's part of real life in college, but you should not be pulling an all-nighter every night, right? You want to be able to schedule time into your routine to recover from that lack of sleep. We need to eat well. We need to eat a healthy diet. And we need to eat at the right times throughout the day. When we go long periods of time without eating, or if we're eating too much junk food, our blood sugar spikes and valleys. And that definitely impacts our brain chemistry as well as our success and our performance. The other big thing about eating is if you struggle with anxiety, if you know you are naturally nervous or anxious, or if you've been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, you want to try to avoid caffeine. That is also a hard thing for college students because a lot of college students do not sleep right and then try to fuel their body with caffeine. The other thing that we want to acknowledge is that abstinence from drugs and alcohol is crucial for mental health. This doesn't mean that you can't have a glass of wine or have a drink or even, go out and party a little bit. What this means is that drugs and alcohol should not be used as coping skills for your mental health. If you're having a bad day, you should not try to overcome the hard emotions by partaking in drugs and alcohol. Alcohol and many other drugs are taken into your body as a depressant. And so if you're already struggling with your mental health, but then you're using drugs or alcohol that are a depressant in order to manage that, it's going to lead to disaster. And then sunlight. For some of you, you are used to growing up in Zimbabwe where you have an abundance of sunlight and vitamin D. I am so grateful for the sunshine in Zimbabwe. And some of you have moved to places where there is not a lot of sunshine. And so your body may have gone through a process of having to adapt to less sunlight, less vitamin D. And we know that seasonal depression is a thing. So if you live in a place where you're not getting enough sunlight and you're not getting enough vitamin D, you might want to supplement that with vitamins in your diet. But if you can be outside in the sun for only 30 minutes a day, it can boost your mental health in such a great way. So take advantage of the summer sunshine if you are in North America and enjoy that. And if not, take some vitamin D. Okay, the next 4, you want to manage stress. We have said that you'll have stress every day. Stress is unavoidable, but let's learn how to manage and release that stress. Every single one of you is going to have a different way that you like to release stress. If you want to unmute and tell me some of those ways right now, or if you want to drop that in the chat, we'll come up with some ways that are unique to you for managing stress. I will tell you the one thing I like to do that drives my kids crazy is I like to sing and dance, and I am tone deaf. Like I cannot carry a tune, but I sing very loudly and I dance around my house all the time. We like to, in our family, we are a family of faith and we like to pray to release stress. Meet with a therapist. Nyasha, yes, that's my favorite. I'm so glad to hear that. I think it is so important to have a counselor or a trusted friend or a therapist, especially if you know that you struggle with depression or anxiety or some unhealthy coping skills. A therapist can just be a safe, trusted place. But any trusted person can provide a stress relief as well. I think having time with your family or friends can be really important. Exercise. So drop some of those ideas for your stress management in the chat box, and we will take a look at what some of those are. And I'm going to move on to our other important things, which are exercise. No matter what, every single day you've got to exercise. You have to move your body 30 minutes a day. This doesn't have to be intense. Oh, playing and watching football. That can be a big stress reliever, especially if your team is winning. For exercise, you want to move your body. I would say do something that you love to do. Don't force yourself to run if you don't like to run. You can just take a leisurely walk if you want to. As long as you're moving your body. I love that Tino said taking walks and meditation. Kimberly said hanging out with my cat. These are great stress relievers. So you want to exercise, move that body. The good thing is you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone on this one if you exercise outside. You can get some fresh air and some sunshine while you move your body. But definitely for college students, I cannot overemphasize this. In the middle of studying, in the middle of all of your busy structured day, you really need to have some time where you just move your body. This is a big one. I think college is very fun. I hope that you are all having a ton of fun in university. Maggie says that she likes to talk to her best friend and listen to music on walks. I do too, Maggie. I take a walk. I walk for 90 minutes every morning when I wake up, and I love to listen to podcasts or music, or I schedule calls with my best friend in the States at that time because I get up early in the morning and she's up late at night. So I think that is really important as well. We want to have fun. I hope that college is fun for you, but every single day, you need to do one thing that is fun. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to take hours. It doesn't have to be some awesome adventure, but you have to do something fun. Anna says dance and run. Those are, I do not like to run, but I'm glad that you do. I do love to dance for sure. Now, fun, the definition of fun, it drives my husband crazy when I share this, but the definition of fun is doing something that you enjoy without a purpose. You don't have this, when I say do something fun, I don't mean do something fun that's going to benefit your life. I mean, just do something that you enjoy doing. It can be so silly. It can be, you know, watching cat videos on YouTube. It can be, you know, doing a little dance. It could be posting a TikTok video. I don't care what it is. This does not have to have a purpose. This is something just for you, just that you enjoy. So you can tell your parents, your roommate, your professors that I have given you a prescription to do one thing fun every single day for your mental health. The other thing we need is social connection. This can sometimes be really easy in university, especially if you are on campus or if you are in person learning. You will generally have a place to make social connections. This can be one of the things that may have been the hardest during COVID, is the lack of social connection that we have had. We know that human beings are hardwired for meaningful connection. We are bettered when we share our story. We are bettered when we hear another story. Our brain is improved. Our mental health and our brain chemistry is improved through meaningful social connections. Those are not always equal in person as they are over video chat. So please, 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 if your campus is back in person, please spend time as you re-enter university really building those meaningful in-person social connections, which there may be some anxiety around. We're seeing quite a lot of social anxiety now that people are transitioning back into in-person life. So if you're anxious about that, you want to process that so that you can enjoy connecting in person. And then the last two things that I think people need to do in order to maintain their mental health are be of service. So those other things are things you need to do every day. This is something you're going to do a lot of the time, but maybe not every day. You want to be of service. When you do something to help another person, it helps you to remember that you are a part of a community, that you have purpose, that you have something to offer, and it boosts your mood. One of the easiest ways to get a real boost in your mood when you're struggling is to do something for another person. The other very important thing for our mental health is we have to be able to ask for help. When things are hard, that does not mean you're doing something wrong. There is no shame in a hard day. There is no shame in a hard season. When things are hard, ask for help. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but when your mental health struggles carry on for longer than is typical, you need to ask for help there. Most of you probably have an on-campus counseling center at your university, or a helpline that the university can give you in order to reach out for help there. This is something, so I shared with you my personal story when we first started. We need to understand our own history. We do not want to be the cause of our own stress. And what this means is that every human being has a unique history. I had a history of trauma growing up. My parents were drug addicts. I lived in an abusive home. I was removed from my parents' home and placed into foster care with my grandparents when I was 8 years old. I had a history of early childhood trauma. Many of you may also have a history of early childhood trauma.
Yeah.
If you have had hard things that have happened to you before the age of 18,
Maggie's actually in this
it's
webinar.
important to understand how this will impact our current mental health. All right. So we have a unique history. We have unique needs. Every single one of us is living in a different space, studying a different thing, having different struggles. Some of us are in person right now with COVID. Some of us are remote with COVID. We all have unique needs. And when we combine a unique history with our own unique needs, that means we need a unique approach. There are some things that are across the board for human nature, like those 10 things that I just shared with you. However, we cannot apply those 10 things and expect that everyone is going to be living with balanced brain chemistry and the ability to manage their daily stress. Your history and your needs are going to bring a unique approach. So these things that you've talked about, hanging out with your cat and taking walks and listening to music, those things are going to help you create a unique approach to managing stress. Everyone's going to need a little bit different amount of sleep or water or food. So we want to acknowledge that we are all unique. This is one more thing that I want to share with you about this particular year. Coping with online learning. Many of us do not understand how technology leads to anxiety. We probably have heard that overusing our devices will lead to anxiety or depression, but we might not know the actual connection. So if you look at your smartphone, you probably have a place there where it tells you how much time you're spending every single day using your device. If you don't have that turned on, you definitely should, because you will probably be surprised how many hours a day you're active on your smartphone or your tablet. And what we know from research is that 5 to 7 hours of active use on your smartphone makes you twice as likely to be depressed. I definitely use my smartphone that often right now. It wasn't always that way before COVID, but right now, while I'm Zooming and doing so many video chats, I am definitely using my device that much. So I know I need to offset what the technology is doing to my brain, and I need to work harder on balancing my mental health. What we know from research as well is that technology use increases our brain activity to a degree that is similar to actual anxiety. So if you're on your screen a lot, you need to take a break and do some of these activities like taking a walk or getting outside in the fresh air or having face-to-face human connection or eating a nutritious meal. We need to be able to do something like that for a break in order to bring our brain activity away from a place of anxiety. Because just being on the screen is bringing our brain activity to that place. And then for those of you who are under the age of 25, your brain takes longer to return to a state of calm because it is still developing. If you are over the age of 25, like I happen to be, then you can count yourself lucky for at least this, that your brain is now fully developed and returns to a state of calm a little bit quicker. There's this quote that I just love from C.S. Lewis that says, mental pain is less dramatic than physical pain, but it is more common and also more hard to bear. The frequent attempt to conceal mental pain increases the burden. It is easier to say my tooth is aching than to say my heart is broken. And for those of you who have been struggling with university and all of the junk that the pandemic has brought to the surface, it may be easier to say, my stomach is hurting, my head is hurting, than to acknowledge that those physical symptoms might be coming from the heavy burden that we are carrying. So one of our big questions that came in from all of you is, when do I reach out for help? This is what we need to know, that we always have to reach out for help if our mental health is debilitating. If you are depressed or anxious, or you have some behaviors that are coming up for you and those are debilitating and you can't do anything to make yourself feel better and you're struggling to think of anything else but these challenges that you're facing, you have to reach out for help. What this looks like in real life is I'm doing all these things Regina told me to. I'm eating healthy at the right time. I'm sleeping, I'm drinking water, I'm moving my body, I'm reaching out to people, I'm having fun, but nothing feels fun and nothing is helping. All I can focus on, my brain is on this loop of the things that I'm stressed out about or the things that I'm thinking about, and I just can't enjoy the things that I used to enjoy. If that's happening, you need to call your counseling center, you need to reach out for help. The other thing is, if you've been doing those 10 things we talked about and for 3 weeks in a row, you don't feel better, right? If you've been taking a walk every day or going to the gym every day and still you're feeling anxious, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling overwhelmed, reach out for help. 3 weeks is too long, right? If your anxiety or your mental health is impacting the 3 most important parts of your life, reach out for help. You do not have to wait for a day or a month or a year. Reach out for help right away. If your family, friendship relationships, and schoolwork are being impacted, that's an automatic indicator to reach out for help right now. Or if it's gone on for too long. If you look back at the past 6 months and you think, wow, I have really been struggling with my mental health. If that's true, then reach out for help. These are the big 5 that we know are mental health struggles on campus. So if you go to your campus counseling center, these are going to be the things that they screen for. These are not the only mental health struggles on campus, but these are the ones that appear very frequently. These are depression, anxiety, eating disorders, suicidal ideation, and addiction. So if you are struggling with any of those 5 things, particularly, please, please, please reach out for help before your classes start again. You do not have to struggle with these things through another semester. You probably know people in your classes or in your community that are struggling with those as well. And if you know people in your life who are struggling through these things within university, please encourage them to reach out for help as well. There are a couple of things that we need to know when we're seeking treatment. The first thing is that if you are going to psychotherapy, if you're seeing a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a therapist, that alone is unlikely going to be your treatment plan. For people that are struggling with clinical depression or clinical anxiety or any of those things that we talked about on the last slide, any of those big 5, especially when it comes to suicide and addiction and eating disorders, therapy is probably going to be a part of your treatment plan. Talk therapy will be, but your therapist is going to ask you to make some lifestyle changes as well. And those 10 things that we've already talked about, those are going to be the main lifestyle changes that they're going to ask you to make. So the great thing is, even before you seek treatment, you can be doing those things to make sure that you're doing the best you can for your mental health. An antidepressant or medication might be prescribed for you, and they may encourage you to take vitamins or supplements to ensure that your nutrition is balanced. So usually when it comes to treatment, there are multiple components to that treatment. Generally, a practitioner is not going to prescribe an antidepressant and not prescribe talk therapy. What we know for depression and any mental health challenge is that when medication is involved, that the improvement that comes along with medication and therapy together is far greater than the improvement with just one or the other. So don't be surprised if you show up to therapy or to a psychology or psychiatry appointment and they ask you to look at all 4 of those things. All right. All right. So these are just a few reminders for you. Some things are hard. School is hard. University is really hard. If it wasn't hard, every single person would do it and every single person would do it well. But I know that if you have already finished a year at university, you've already seen some people drop out. You've already seen some people not do that well in university. It is hard, and hard does not mean that you are doing it wrong. All right. Many of you, I think most of you, are also living cross-culturally. Living cross-culturally is also hard. I wish my husband were here to share a little bit of his story. I might, if we have a few minutes, share it. But I will tell you, I have been living cross-culturally in Zimbabwe for 16 years, and it is hard. I moved to Zimbabwe 16 years ago, and I met my husband in 2009. 12 years ago, I guess now. And then we got married almost 8 years ago. We adopted a daughter, our eldest daughter, who is 17, and we have a 6-year-old daughter. And through all of that, like my community here in Harare now, where I've lived for the past 8 years, people forget that I am living cross-culturally, despite my accent. I don't know how you could forget it, but despite my accent, they forget that I'm not Zimbabwean. And sometimes I will say, well, you know, I'm living outside of my culture, so some things are harder for me than they might be for you. And people will look at me like, what are you talking about? You've lived here for 16 years. This is your culture now. I think that no matter how long you live in the country that you are living in, that cross-cultural living outside of your passport country where you grew up is always going to be a struggle. So I find that there are seasons when life in Zimbabwe is more stressful, where I feel more exhausted than my husband does, where I'll feel like fatigue or burnout symptoms or anxiety symptoms from just the rising stress. For those of you who are studying in America, last year was probably incredibly stressful for you. It was probably more stressful than any other year you've lived in America. And my husband, if he were here, he would be sharing about his experience when COVID lockdowns were happening last year. Our family was evacuated to the States, and my husband and my eldest daughter have never lived in the States. Well, either as my youngest daughter, all three of them have lived their whole lives here. And the longest my husband had ever been in the States before that was 3 months. My eldest daughter had never been to the States before. And we got off the airplane at Dulles in Washington, D.C., and we had a 10-hour layover to get to LA, and we saw 8 people. I mean, we firmly traveled in the middle of the lockdown. And it was really scary for them. Then we went into quarantine for 2 weeks. We came out, we were living in Southern California in a place none of them had ever lived, in a totally different culture. And a couple of weeks later, the George Floyd murder happened. And America got even more complicated as weeks and weeks and weeks went on. Almost every city that we were in had massive protests, had a lot of chaos and crime and violence going on. We took our kids to Washington, D.C. to meet with friends, and we were walking from our hotel to the White House, and we were almost knocked over by Secret Service agents because there was a shooting outside of the White House, and we were about 5 minutes away. I mean, every city that we went to, there was just something going on. And living in the States, living cross-culturally in the States, as all of those headlines and all of those stories just carried on throughout your academic year, I imagine that was really hard. I know it was hard for my husband. I know it was hard for my children. Some things are just hard. Again, hard doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. Hard doesn't mean that something is wrong with you, and hard doesn't mean that you are alone. What is typical of human nature, especially if you have a trauma history, what is typical of human nature is that when things get hard, our brain fills with shame. And shame tells us that there's something wrong with us and that we're all alone in this. And this is why meaningful connection is so important. When we have meaningful conversation about what's going on in our world and in our community, and we say, man, I'm really struggling with this, and another person says, I am too, all of a sudden the shame falls away, because we realize that we're not alone and that something is not wrong with us, and that it's not hard because we're doing something wrong. It's just hard because it's hard. And when we understand that it's hard because it's hard, that it's easier for us to reach out for help and to do the things that we need to do. So I want to give you some solutions. What can we do when we are living in hard seasons, like university, like cross-cultural living? We can be prepared and have a plan for the hard moments. I want you to be prepared. There's going to be something this semester that's going to be hard for you. What are you going to do when it's hard? How are you going to cope? Are you going to play with your cat? Are you going to take a walk? Are you going to call a friend? What are you going to do when it's hard? And your plan is going to be unique to you, right? And the next thing I want you to remember for a solution is that if you do those 10 things that we talked about over and over and over every day for your mental health, when you sleep, when you eat, when you connect, when you exercise, when you get fresh air and sunshine, if you can do those things, you're going to create emotional margin, mental margin for yourself, so that when your stress and the hard things happen and your stress levels rise, you have space for that to go. If you're not doing those 10 things, you're going to be here all the time. And when something hard happens, it has no place for it to go. It's going to pour out in unhealthy coping skills. And then the third solution is know when to ask for help. We've talked about that. What does it look like when you need to ask for help? But be prepared that everybody needs help. There's no one that I've ever met that has made it through university that didn't have someone who helped them. So please, please, please use those as solutions. Be prepared and have a plan for the hard things. Do the 10 things that keep your brain chemistry steady, and know when to ask for help. If you are in Zimbabwe, where can you ask for help right now? This is my phone number right here. That's my WhatsApp number. You are welcome to write that down and put it in your phone. If you are on this webinar, you are always welcome to message me and say, I need help. Can you help me find someone who is available for me? I will always do that. If you're in Zimbabwe, I offer a group processing, which is incredible, called Making Sense of Your Worth. If you are in America, you can find a Making Sense of Your Worth facilitator in your area for sure as well. Here's the number for the Christian Counseling Center. They offer $15 sessions, which are probably the most affordable in Harare. They are also right now, I'm pretty sure, still doing free sessions for people who are particularly having mental health distress related to COVID. So if COVID changes are causing you distress, you can call this number and make an appointment, or for anything else as well. And then this is the Friendship Bench. This is a Zimbabwean born program. If you do not know the Friendship Bench, no matter what you're studying and where you're living, I would encourage you to reach out and just follow them on social media, because this is a program and an organization that was born out of Zimbabwe that I think we should all be very, very proud of, and at least share and support their materials with others. But they have free counseling sessions and free problem solving sessions that they can walk you through. So I would definitely encourage you to keep that information handy as well. You guys, we have a few minutes to answer questions. If you don't have questions, I can keep talking, but I would love to specifically talk through anything that you would like addressed, or if you have an experience you don't have to share about yourself, you can say, you know, this happened to a friend, or I saw this on campus. If you have specific things related to your university and your studies and mental health, I would love, love, love to chat through those with you and answer any questions that you have. You can always type them into the chat directly to Education Matters if you don't want anyone to know who's asking the question. But if you're comfortable, you can unmute and ask as well. Is there anything specifically that you guys want to talk about, or do you want me to just keep talking for a few more minutes? While we're waiting for any questions that might pop up, I'm going to walk you through a couple of skills. Let me know with a thumbs up or smiley face or whatever you'd like to do if you have heard of box breathing or square breathing, because there are some mindfulness activities that in this time of heightened anxiety, we should all be practicing. Okay, we have a question here. One person asked how they can know when they should refer a friend for professional help rather than just talk them through a hard time. This is probably the most important question for your age group. So let's do box breathing, and then I'm going to answer this. So I want you guys all to breathe in. We'll do for 5 seconds, and then you're going to breathe out for 5 seconds. So as you breathe in, I want you to imagine and breathe out that you're drawing a square, right? So you're going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a really simple mindfulness breathing technique that you can use anytime you are feeling anxious or worried. And that's an easy one that you can share with anyone. My 6-year-old daughter loves to do that one, and my 83-year-old grandma loves to do that one. So how do we know if we should refer someone? You know what? Most of those things are exactly the same as when to refer yourself. If this has been going on for too long, If it's, if their struggles have been happening for 6 months, definitely refer them. If their 3 main things, their friendship, their family, and their schoolwork, if those things are being impacted, you definitely refer them. If they are doing the 10 things that you'll likely encourage them to do to maintain their mental health and it's not helping, you refer them. If they are struggling with one of those 5 things that are worrisome on campus, suicide, addiction, eating disorders, anxiety, depression, refer them, right? And I would say when you have a conversation with your friend and they're struggling and you listen to them and they come back again and again and again, and you're listening to a similar thing over and over and over, and it's not resolving, refer them, right? Because there is a difference between helping and enabling, and helping looks like help. Helping leads to changed behavior. So if you're helping by listening and it's not leading to a better life for them, if it's not making things better, then refer them to a professional who might be able to help them better. So I hope that answers that question. The other thing is, if anyone comes to you and they are participating in self-harm, like cutting or eating disorders, if they are struggling with an addiction, anything from alcohol, drugs, pornography, they've got to be referred. They don't have to necessarily be referred to a professional. They can be referred to Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, some sort of support group like that, which definitely will meet either on campus or around campus. But if there's self-harm or suicidal ideation, suicidal thoughts, or saying, life would just be easier if I didn't live anymore. If people are saying things like that, or if they are hurting themselves, they have to be referred to a professional. You have to take those kinds of things seriously. And that is beyond the capability of just a friend. So we have a couple more minutes. If another question pops up, we'll answer it. So now you have your box breathing that you're going to try. Another question. And I see the word man up in this one. So I'm going to love this question. Okay, Simone Biles, oh, bless her heart, and Naomi Osaka have both modeled the importance of self-care and mental health by stepping down from major competitions. When the wound gets deep, is it advisable for international students to take breaks and recuperate? What are the possible consequences for those who don't man up and see it through? Oh, you guys, be Simone Biles. 100% be Simone Biles. Realize that being the greatest of all times does not mean showing up at the expense of yourself. And look, it's going to make me cry because she is an absolute hero in the world right now. And anyone that says otherwise is a big jerk who probably doesn't take care of themselves. There are consequences to stepping back and taking care of your mental health. There will always be consequences, but the consequences of not taking care of your mental health are always worse, right? So I would say, is Simone Biles going to have consequences? Will Naomi Osaka have consequences? Yes, we're already seeing that taking place in the media right now. There are consequences, and there will be consequences for their career. But had either one of them pushed through and done what their brain and their body was telling them not to, the consequences would have been worse. You have to listen to your brain and your body. This is what mindfulness is about. Trauma disconnects us from our brain, disconnects our brain and our body. It makes it impossible for us to listen to what is happening. When we are mindful, we will hear our body say, I am tired, this is too much. We will hear our brain say, I am overwhelmed, I can't carry on. And when we hear that, we have to be kind and compassionate to ourselves, and we have to give our body and our brain what it needs. In the Bible, it talks about how we have to love our neighbor as ourselves. Most of us are better at loving our neighbor than we are at loving ourselves. We have to love ourselves. We have to be compassionate to ourselves. And I don't know anyone whose success has continued at the expense of their mental health, and where we've seen that person and said, oh, I want to be like them. There are some people who may have success in one area of their life, but those are never the people we want to be like. In my line of work, we always say, find the person who's got what you want and do what they do. And I will tell you, Simone Biles has what I want. I want to be the best that I possibly can be at the things that I'm called to do. And that means I've got to take care of myself. So a year ago, Simone Biles had what I wanted. And this week, Simone Biles has got what I want. I want to be brave enough to do what I need for myself so that I can show up for my team and for my country and for my family and do what I can do. Given that mental health talk isn't as common, especially in our culture, and not an easy subject to approach, how do you convince your friend to seek mental health without pushing them away? So this is the deal. My husband, Nyasha, when we first started dating, when we were engaged, I said to him, I think you should see a counselor. And he rolled his eyes at me and he said, oh my gosh, you're a therapist. Of course, more than anything, you're going to think that everyone should be in therapy. And I said, I do think everyone should be in therapy, but I especially think that you should be in therapy because these are some things that I'm seeing. And I, as your fiance, cannot be the one to walk you through this. Like, you need a safe place where you can deal with all of this. What I know is this, is that in Zimbabwean culture, there has always been a safe place to take our hard things. Sometimes that was our neighbor, sometimes that was our pastor, sometimes that was our auntie or our uncle, sometimes that was our elder. There has always been a person where we have taken our things to. And sometimes we know that we don't have a safe person to process these things with, that our family isn't the one, that our best friend or our neighbor isn't the one. Sometimes we need a place that is by law confidential. And I would say that one of the things that we can do in regards to culture is identify that keeping a safe, confidential space is so important. And that's really what counseling is. The other thing that we can do is follow the Friendship Bench. I do not work for them. I do not make any money off of advertising for them. But if you follow the Friendship Bench, this is a model that was born in Zimbabwe, created by Dr. Dixon Chibanda, who is Zimbabwean, and run by Zimbabweans. And they talk about mental health in terms of the Zimbabwean cultural context better than anyone I've ever met. So I would say follow Friendship Bench on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm pretty sure they're also on TikTok. Follow them. And if you have a Zimbabwean who culturally is saying, no, that's not for me, use what you see on their social media to help you and your friend or family with that. And I think that's the best place to close, is to know that mental health is for everybody. Mental health is, when we talk about mental health, we're not talking about, a particular people group or culture that deserves to have mental health more than another. We all deserve to have mental health, just like we all deserve to have physical health. And we can acknowledge that there are certain physical illnesses that impact people groups differently than others, just like there are certain mental health issues that impact people groups differently than others, right? It's important to honor our differences and to have a unique approach. So there is not a one size fits all for everyone with this, but what we do know is that mental health is for everybody. And I am so, so, so grateful that you spent time with us today. I am so glad to hear a little bit of your stories and where you are studying. And I know that the commitment that you have made to your academics has meant that there has been some hard things for you. And it is just my hope that as you carry on with your academics and as you keep accomplishing your goals, that you will remember that you don't have to do that at the expense of your mental health. Be a Simone Biles in whatever area you are studying. And if you need to take a break, there is no shame in taking a break. So Tapiwa, I will hand it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Regina, for speaking to the students. Thank you all so much for joining us. As mentioned earlier, we will be sharing the recording and a quick resource sheet, just so you can continue to have this information available to you whenever you need it. And you can share it with your peers who may also need this information and weren't able to make it. Thank you all so much and have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.